YouTube, I just thought I would make a coming out video. And so I thought I would just put up a video of my own coming out process. I gradually became aware that I was interested in men when I was around 12 or 13. Before then I had only a very few vague sort of sexual thoughts or feelings in nature. I'm sure that a lot of people do as well. I mean, I barely remember anything from that time, but I mean, it was always just vague. It was probably just because puberty was gearing up. But around 13, I was positively sure. And it scared the living shit out of me because I grew up in an extremely religious household. And it's always hard to describe my household because my parents were very conservative and very religious, but at the same time they didn't subscribe to a particular denomination of Christianity. I can just loosely categorize it as a conservative sort of evangelical Christianity. And once I was aware that I was gay, I was also aware that it was not okay. And so there was a lot of fear, a lot of self-disgust, and many years of trying to change. Once I realized that, I spent a good 5-6 years trying to change. I tried aversion therapy. I dabbled a little bit in other forms of reparative therapy. A lot of praying, a lot of bargaining with God. And I really threw myself into Christian ministries and Christian missionary work because I thought if I sincerely tried hard that God would help me with this affliction that I had. Needless to say, none of that worked at all. And the feelings weren't getting any weaker. In fact, they were just getting stronger. And so I tried just to suppress all feelings of a sexual nature. And I did a very, very, very good job of becoming sort of asexual. It's really hard for me to describe it any other way. I just messed myself up so much that I messed myself up. I really hated myself. And I thought God hated me too. And if you're watching this and you've never sort of came out in a religious family, or you're not gay so you don't need to come out, then it's hard for me to describe exactly what it feels like to feel that a very deep core part of your being is evil and wrong, and by extension you are evil and wrong. Hell is meant for people like you. But there's no way that God could love you. And it was a horrible time. I was suffering in silence. No one else really had any idea that something was going on. But I was very depressed. I really hated myself. And this went on for years until when I was 17, I decided that I was going to kill myself. And I didn't actually get around to actually attempting it. But I had a plan. I had the necessary materials that I was going to do the plan with. I was going to take a lot of sleeping medication and put a plastic bag over my head and secure it with a rope. And I had all the materials, and I was going to do that when I was 17. But I don't know, something stopped me. I'm not sure what it was, but instead I just sort of just gave up. It was kind of like I killed myself without killing myself. And for the next few years, I was just very apathetic. I was very depressed, very isolated. I had minimal communication with anybody and everybody. And at this point, I wasn't out yet. This was just my pre-outness or whatever. And then one night in November 2009, I just suddenly felt that I needed to come out to my parents. I hadn't been planning on it before. I mean, it was almost like I was possessed, just with the urgency of needing to tell them. And so I told them, feeling like I was having a heart attack. I was so nervous and stressed. And it went how I would expect it to have gone, the sort of best case scenario. They said they still loved me, if you can call it a sort of qualified love. I knew they couldn't see me the same anymore, but that they did not accept my choices. In their eyes, I had some sort of disease. Being gay was a disease. That wasn't necessarily my fault. It could very well be a product of a quote-unquote fallen world, but at the same time, I was still diseased. And then a few months after that, I came out to my siblings, for the most part. And that was my sophomore year in college at a local university that I'm attending. And so the sort of apathetic existence that I had, so just that's the only way I can describe it. I mean, I didn't have any friends. The few friends I had were Christian friends that I had when I was involved in ministry work, and they ceased to be my friends when I stopped doing that. So they were really more like business associates than they were like friends. I mean, I had my family, but I did not feel connected to them at all. I hadn't felt connected to them for years because of what I thought was a big secret I was holding, and knowing that I couldn't be accepted by them because of it. And so, I mean, I would get up and I would commute 2 hours to school. I would go to all my classes. I would avoid people. I didn't have any friends. I wouldn't talk with people. I would either be in class at the library or in my room at home. And that was my life for many years. And so I was basically living a hellish existence. I was out, and contrary to what a lot of the It Gets Better videos tells you, just because you stop going to high school, or you come out, or both, life doesn't get better. More than that has to happen. And honestly, I don't know what more that is, because I've basically been going through hell for quite a while. Last November I moved out, and it was really crazy and traumatic. The police had to be called. I mean, I just don't want to go into it right now. It was just more hell on top of the hell I went through. My relationship with my family right now is very strained. I live in a different city from them. I have minimal contact with them, and that's a whole nother issue. But the point is, I don't know, this is a kind of coming out, it doesn't get better sort of video. I mean, in the very least, I think the It Gets Better videos are missing some vital information, namely that there has to be a drastic change in your circumstances for it to get better. Not just ending high school or coming out, not just moving away. I've been out for 2 years now. I've been away from my family for 6 months, and it hasn't gotten better. It's still a whole lot of hell. It's still a whole lot of pain. And maybe in the future it will be better. I don't know, but the point is that this is just an extremely difficult time that I'm going through. And if you're gay and you're thinking about coming out, you just need to be mindful that telling your parents and telling your friends won't automatically be a good thing. steeling yourself, psyching yourself up to get through high school with minimal damage and graduating doesn't mean things will get better. More than that has to happen. As to what else more, I don't know. I haven't found it yet. But you just need to be aware of it.